Welcome to the Revolution Church podcast.
Good morning. Can everyone hear me? My kids have been playing with the phone, so all my settings could be changed. I have no idea. How's that? Does it look like a professional movie set? What embarrassing things do I have out behind me? My medications. Oh. What medications? I just have my co-host, Jimmy the Walrus. All right, guys. How's it going? Obviously, the past yesterday, so I had a talk planned, and that talk has changed. Due to the fact of the tragedy that happened in Texas yesterday. So we'll get into that here. Honestly, I was thinking about not doing a talk today, but I think it's appropriate. So yesterday, my plan for the talk was going to be about just a rough outline of it, but was kind of be like being overwhelmed by like everything that we see in the media, constantly like AI and wars and guns and all this stuff, and just how we have all our information just constantly headed at us. But then yesterday there was the shooting at the outlet mall in Texas. And so that changed my talk today. So I'd like to talk a little bit about, I don't know how long we can even go, how much I can get through it, because it really was, really hit me in a way that I wasn't expecting. It's like this never-ending crisis, this never-ending just horror that continues to happen. And everybody has an answer, and the sad thing is, like, a lot of their answers are always like on towing party lines. And I have had such a hard time trusting answers that are based on like your political alliance. It's like people saying what they're supposed to be saying. And it's frustrating. The talk is frustrating, honestly. If we could be having really good arguments and really good conversations that were actually going to lead to change, that would be excellent. So I'm going to read from Psalms real quick, Psalms 23. And it says, this is the New Revised Standard Version. Even though I walk through the darkest valleys, I fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. And the reason I wanted to read this was because, I was thinking about this family yesterday. I'm sure I don't know if they're all family, but these different families yesterday that got the horrible call or that were affected by each other, your loved one's dead, they went to the mall and they're dead. And how horrific those calls must be, and how those calls are happening so often in the United States now. Your loved ones were at church and they're dead. Your kids are dead because they came to school today. you know, your family's dead because, you know, your loved one's dead because they went to a concert. Oh, your loved one's dead because they were at the grocery store. You know, I mean, it's just like things we just do every day, and we're just dying and being killed by each other, and it's horrific. And you know, yesterday I still haven't talked to my kids, and I'm sure they'll hear about it at school because that's where they hear about everything. But I try to usually talk to my kids about things like this. But yesterday I was just too done. It was like, how do I explain to them this horrificness that's happening? You know, the and I just wanted them to be able to enjoy their Saturday. You know, but like I don't want to scare them, but I'm scared. You know, like we're going to a soccer game today. You know, and it scares me. You know, we were swim lessons yesterday. You know, a public pool, and it's like nowhere seems safe. So I think as reason, you know, so I feel like the valley of death, as I walk through the valley of death, yea, shall I walk through the valley of death, I shall not fear. You know, it's this idea of that we're in danger now everywhere we go. And this isn't good news, and this isn't probably the way you're supposed to talk about it. I remember one time I was at this big social justice conference with all these leaders and was talking about LGBTQ rights. And this was before they were all really ready to accept that this was a social justice issue as well. And I said, you know, LGBT, I mean, they're dying, you know, they're committing suicide, they're homeless. And someone was like, you can't say they're all dying. That's manipulative. You can't do that. You can't say that. And I was like, so we're not allowed to speak the truth because it's manipulative and it's not professional, you know? And I thought, how convenient. That's a convenient way to deal with things. And I'm going to give you an idea of why all this kind of hit me so heavily yesterday as well here in a minute. I mean, honestly, what happened was I was on Twitter yesterday and someone posted a picture of the victims all blanked out, and I was reading some of the comments, and then someone put the picture of the victims of yesterday's shooting not blanked out and said, people need to see this. And 6, 7 dead folks, shorts, t-shirts, going to the outlet mall. And what hit me really, really tough, and I'm being kind of quiet because my kids are in the next room playing, was this 5-year-old little girl in a little pink shirt and her brains on the ground. You know, and I was really torn because part of me was like, well, this is really hard, and I don't know if this should be shown, but in some ways I'm like, is this the only thing that's going to wake people up, is if they see our middle schoolers who've been shot and slain in bits, and these little kids, you know, wake people up and stop towing some like damn line or worshiping some amendment that doesn't make any sense anymore. And then she's the same age as my daughter. And, you know, and a little girly girl like my daughter. And I just think about all of us and not wanting you to get that call, not wanting to get that call. And the thing is these shooters and these bullets and these folks, they don't give a damn about what your politics are, you know. And so no one's safe. They don't, you know, they just seem to, you know, every now and then it's targeted maybe at African Americans, but usually it's just targeted really at anyone who's out in public, any kids or any adults or whoever is in the situation. So this is something that affects all of us equally. We are in the same boat now. And how does loving your neighbor work into this ideal? I would, no, that's Dr. King's wife, Bernice, Dr. King's daughter, was saying, you know, we're praying for everyone, but we also have to remember in James where it says faith without works is dead. And it's true, you know. And so it's funny because how that plays with, I walk through the valley of death, I shall not fear. But I think if people are really going to follow Christ and follow this religion, Christianity, and really want to be true to its meaning, is that we are the ones who should be trying to affect these, making sure our neighbors and our brothers and sisters are protected, you know. And what's always strange to me is that a lot of believers really love guns, and they're also pro-life, and I think that's just ridiculous, to be honest with you, because it's just like, I don't know what you're thinking. Like, there's less abortions, there's more options of people to maybe break into your house that you can shoot. I don't know. I don't know what the thought is of that. Like, it's a major contradiction, and one that could be looked at and changed. Or pro-death penalty and pro-life. I mean, that's just, you're not pro-life. I mean, guns aren't, unless you're hunting, which is a different thing, but otherwise guns are made either to hunt or to kill people. But they are to kill things. So to be pro-life and be pro-gun other than hunting doesn't make sense to me. I want to protect my house, you know, get an alarm system. Welcome to the future. It's about the same price. So we're in this awful situation, and I'm not trying to toe any line. I'm just trying to figure out, you know, this is my whole lifetime we've been talking about this. We've been talking about this. We've been talking about police brutality. We've been talking about healthcare, you know. Nothing's changed. No politician has changed anything. So I'm not like, and that's why I'm voting for Joe. You know, it's like, nobody's changed anything. I mean, they've changed some things here and there. They've done some good things for the LGBT community on the left, but I mean, but they haven't really done a lot for the America as a whole. You know, and they talk about mental health, and this is the ironic thing, is like, the best mental health treatment I've ever had was seeing a psychoanalyst, seeing an analyst. It's the best I've ever done and everything. And I haven't been to my analyst in a couple months because I can't afford it. Now, I have insurance, but my insurance doesn't pay for it, you know. My insurance will pay for me to go to a psychiatrist and see them for 5 minutes and get a bunch of pills, but they won't let me charge, you know, they won't let me go sit with somebody for an hour and talk things out and figure out what's really going on and deal with those issues. You know, they might let me go to a talk therapist, but they won't let me go to a psychotherapist, which all that therapy comes from. So they won't pay for it. You know, so when we talk about Medicare for all and things like that, and then people are talking about health care, you know, we don't want health care, we want guns. It's like, you know, there's a reason like why a lot of these things would really make sense intertwined. Guns and, you know, look what we've done to cigarettes. You know, at times cigarettes were killing more people than wars. You know, now the number one killer in our country of young people are guns. And we've become legalistic to the Constitution, to an amendment that was meant for Civil War times over our children. And it's strange because if you grew up like I did in the evangelical church, people are like, you've got to put God before even your family or your children. You know, I remember one time seeing John Piper say that he would worship God even if he burned his kids in hell. And I was like, this guy's in the head, you know. And I think we've got to get to this point in our walk and our lives and our world where it's people over politics. It's people over politicians. You know, we've been tricked. And we've been given, you know, somehow we act like this is our favorite sports team and we have to stay with them. We've been tricked. And somehow Christianity's been tied to one of them. We've been tricked. It doesn't belong in either one of them. You know, people, well, I became a liberal because Jesus taught me. You know, it's like we always want to just, oh no, my politics are all explained through my religion. And why I'm saying all this is because I'm just saying, like, can we just be human? Can we be humans to each other for a moment? People over religion is what I'd say. And honestly, I said, I believe if Jesus, I wrote this down in my notes, I believe if Jesus had a test for us in the Bible, the secret test, for us, I'm just being tested, brother, was if, when you're called to love someone, if you're going to let religion get in the way of loving them. You know? And I think that's a test because love should always trump your religion. And that's what a lot of people miss. Love never gives up, never loses faith, always hopeful, endures through every circumstance. God is love. Like that is the ultimate pure religion, is love. And we miss that. And and now it's like one of our communicating with God has become one of the greatest insults you can say to victims at this point. Prayer, we're praying about it. We're not going to do anything about it. Talking to the man upstairs. It's like, I've spent most of my life being a pastor, and this is not how things get changed. And as we talk about here, about hard conversations and disagreeing well, is we've got to be able to do that, and we've got to figure this out and leave nothing off the table. Like politically, like whoever making these laws, we've got to call our politicians. We've got to talk to these people. We've got to figure out ways to change this, because humanity is not doing this. But nothing off the table. Like I want to hear my conservative brothers and sisters and my liberal brothers and sisters, and I want to hear ideas. I'm not against owning guns. I'm just the way that it works now, it doesn't work. There's got to be better laws. There's got to be things that protect people. I was reading yesterday when my son was at swim lessons. My daughter was, what was she doing? She was playing a coloring game on my phone. And Dr. King comes into a lot of this. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about Dr. King, and then we'll move on, or we'll close the day. But Dr. King, I think, is always a great example of what we do in situations like this. As you know, he's one of my heroes. He's boom right there. This is a letter from a Birmingham jail. I have it in different books, but I found it in this little book on Amazon, and I really like to have it. And if it was up to me, we would remove the book of Revelation, because there's so much bad theology that comes from there. And then we would just put it in there, and then we would canonize the letter from a Birmingham jail. But Dr. King says in his letter, he goes, "We are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny. Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly. Never again can we afford to live with a narrow, provincial, outside agitator idea. Anyone who lives inside the United States can never be considered an outsider anywhere within its bounds." This is Dr. King. Now here the thing is like, we can never afford to live as an outside agitator. We always want to make the outsider, oh, mental health, oh, this, oh, that, outsider, not one of us. It can't be, oh, I'm a responsible person. And this is saying, it doesn't matter if you're a responsible person, because this affects everyone. This hurts everyone. This hurts, like, I'm glad. But why do you think laws are made? Laws are made because people abuse laws and hurt others, not because of the, why drugs are against. Well, I can take drugs and not be addicted. That's the principle. They should all be illegal. Just like people are like, well, what about safe belts? All this arguing about things, Should we outlaw cars, And it's like, no, but we have to have licenses to have these gigantic vehicles, and we have to be trained, and we have to read manuals. And anyway, we've heard all the arguments. I'll just stop there. It's just realizing that we've got to act like we're not just like, well, it doesn't affect me, or I'm a this and I shouldn't. It does affect you. Like what your decisions are affecting other people's. We are tied in a single garment of destiny, and we don't see it. We think right and left, so somehow, well, those guys are bastards, and what they do and what we do are affecting one another. Like, it's just calling them bastards is just making the work. Like, being angry, I understand, but continuing to be angry and continuing to scapegoat the other keeps us from moving forward. So we've got to knock it out. Stop acting like children, and act like adults and people who have tough conversations, and talk to our politicians. And when our politicians act like children, we need to say, you need to stop acting like children. Why are you working for the NRA when our children are dying? How is your finances and your greed more important than my children? Why is it that when the Democrats, they're saying, oh, our hands are tied. Well, why when you guys were in control didn't you do anything? The president, oh, I have to depend on the Republicans, it's like, I don't buy it completely. I don't buy the scapegoating completely, okay? There's something going on, and I think everybody is in on it in some way or the other, or influenced. Like, oh, it's like when you see a politician who's sort of like pro healthcare when they come into politics. Oh, well, everybody's going to get healthcare and all this stuff, and they get in there, and then their donors start to be big pharma, or the insurance companies start to donate to their thing, and they go, well, I used to think, but maybe a single payer, people should have the choice, so let's not quite do it. I'm like, Obamacare is good, but it's not great. Like I just told you, there's a lot of things I can't go to, a lot of doctors I can't see. I need an eye surgery, and I was at the eye doctor, and the eye doctor's like, yeah, well, you need the surgery, we're gonna do it. And then they're like, oh, but you're not covered here, so you're gonna have to find another place that you're covered for this surgery, because I'm like, but you guys just gave me glasses and did my eye. Yeah, but well, for some reason we can't do surgery on you, so you have to go somewhere else and do this and that. And so this is the American way of how we do things here. And it's infuriating. So it's just, what I'm saying is you see people compromise over time with financial, or how the system works, and they get caught up in that system. And we need to say, like, this isn't working anymore. This is a broken system. And I think both people on the right and left can agree on that, at least, is that the system is completely broken. So I'm going to hit you with one more thing, and then we'll call it quits, because I'm not feeling really great about anything today. Dr. King on Vietnam, for a little while, Dr. King was silent on Vietnam. But in 1967, Dr. King saw a picture in a magazine. He was, I think, on an airplane, I thought. But I can't remember. I've heard the story told different ways. But Dr. King saw a picture of children struck by napalm in Vietnam. And I think some of us have probably seen a similar picture where these little naked kids running down the street. And Dr. King said the images were unforgettable. And that's when he said he could not remain silent about the issue, about Vietnam. The issue that was destroying the soul of our nation. And I'm going to go on record here and to say that I believe that right now, guns are destroying the soul of our nation. And I just mean that basically on watching children die, and that we don't do anything, and more people die, and more adults die, and more people, and then eventually we're all going to get a fucking phone call. Or we're going to have to call somebody. And I already have friends whose kids have been in the shootings. I have two friends kids who've been in different shootings in this country within the past year. So it gets closer and closer. And for Dr. King, the reason that was a hard decision for him was because he had the ear of the president. So when he came out and spoke out against Vietnam, it wasn't like he was like, he was losing influence for the civil rights movement by speaking out against Vietnam. But he did it. Dr. King said it was politically unwise, but morally wise to speak out against Vietnam. And sometimes we have to go with the politically unwise thought and idea and make the moral wise decision. And that's what I'm pleading for people to do, is make the moral position. Now, I know I'm probably speaking like to the choir on this, but share it with your other friends. Share this with other people. Have the talk and say, when are we going to be politically unwise but morally wise? When are we going to have leaders who are willing to be politically unwise but morally wise and speak truth? I mean, I lost faith in pretty much all my politicians at this point. And Dr. King also said, I may have a role to play which may be unpopular. And ironically, when Dr. King was assassinated, when he was murdered, he was the most unpopular he'd ever been because he was doing the Poor People's Campaign. He'd spoken against Vietnam, and wasn't very popular at the time for what he was saying. And are we willing to do that? Are we willing to come out and make the unpopular stances when it may, and I know this doesn't win anything because I've always tried to stick where I've been able to speak to my, create a space where I'm able to have my conservative brothers and my liberal brothers and sisters and a diverse community of thinking, and I know that this thinking is often attributed to this one side. But it's just, so when I'm saying this does not be politically wise for me to say, but it's morally wise. It might not be financially wise for revolution, but it's morally wise for revolution. It's the same thing when I talked about my LGBTQ brothers and sisters and their equality years ago. It wasn't wise as a leader of our church. I had I'm 13 people online right now. That's the reality of where I'm at. And I remember when Columbine happened and sitting down with my community and we were talking about this, and one of the kids, we had people in their teens and early 20s at that time. And, and one of our regulars, and a really great kid, a few months later was walking back to his dorm room and got shot 3 times. He survived, thank God. He listens. He's probably going to listen to this. He listens to the podcast after this. Doesn't watch it live, but listens. And we're still talking about this shit. It's just wild how easy, how good we are. As Christians are called to love each other and to love their enemies, not shoot their enemies. That's the ironic thing, And again, with the whole pro-life thing, it's if you're pro-life, then you should probably be anti-gun, anti-war, anti-death penalty, pro-health care and welfare and housing for all. If you really care about life, not just existing. And really love your enemies. What does that mean? People over country at this point. So I'm going to just end with Dr. King's words again is, we are destroying you have to speak out. He had to speak out against the Vietnam War because he realized that it was destroying the soul of our nation. And again, when he said he was making a politically unwise but morally wise decision to speak out. And I think we've got to be there. So no matter where you're at, and if your friends can't handle it, that's okay. I've got friends who I know are pissed because I've said this stuff, They're not even mad. They're mad at me. They're not responding. They're totally ignoring my Instagram right now. They're mad, and they think, oh, you're going woke, man. Whatever, bro, And it's really not about that. It's about people. And so you call me what you will. You can call me right, left, center. Honestly, I don't give a damn anymore. I just don't want to see these people killed anymore. And seeing that little girl, the picture, the brains out of her head in her little pink outfit. I was up all night. I couldn't get the image out of my head. We got to stop this stuff. And we got to be human about it. And we got to have compassion. I would really challenge you, if your first thing to do is, when this happens, is defend guns, you need to ask yourself what's going on in your life that makes your rights more important than this little girl who's dead and will never see 6. So this is just something to think about. This wasn't my planned talk, but I had to talk about it. And I hope we all don't go numb in a few days. Remember when it had to be a few months, and now it's a few days because somebody else will be killed in a few days. And what just happened? 7 people were killed by somebody in a car running them over. We're killing each other. Something's not right. Maybe we've lost the soul of this country. Maybe the great American experiment has failed. I think capitalism has failed us. So I guess that's kind of what we're built on. All right. Thank you, guys. I look forward to speaking to you next week. Love each other. Have these hard conversations. I hope we can make a change. It feels really hopeless at this point, but, you know, I am a pessimist, but I am, as Cornel West says, I'm a prisoner of hope. I am a prisoner of hope. And so I'm going to live there as much as I can and just be like, I'm such a feeler though, man. This stuff just hits me so hard. And I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful that I'm not numbing it out and being like, you know, we can talk a little bit more about sensible gun control and fight with more people about it. Anyway, thank you. Love you guys. Appreciate your support. You can go to revolutionchurch.com and support us there if you like what we're doing, or you can really help by sharing this content with other people and letting them know about Revolution and what we're doing. All right. Thank you, everybody. I got to go be dad now. Bye-bye.